inside, and mercy's waiting on the other side. If we're honest, if we're honest, so bring your brokenness and I'll bring mine, 'cause love can heal what hurts inside, and mercy's waiting on the other side. If we're honest, if we're honest, if we're honest.
The song, I don't know where it came from, but it's beautiful, and it touched me deeply, and I think you could feel it even if you couldn't understand every exact lyric. The word music comes from the word muse, which means to think, and it's called the science of the musings. And it's powerful to think. We're from a feeling culture. We like to feel, like to go to church and feel something, and I still do. But the universe doesn't judge us so much by what we feel as much as what we think about what we feel. And I began to ask myself, what are you thinking about any particular feeling? If somebody says, how you doing? I say, I'm doing pretty good. Well, what do you think about that? What does pretty good mean? Or I'm doing all right. Or I'm not feeling so well. I'm not happy today. So tell me what you think about that. Thoughts are powerful. They're creative. They're inventive. What you think about, you bring about. So I'm thinking more intentionally, less than accidentally. Thinking more by choice than by chance. And it's a battle always, because there's always chance thoughts, which tend to be circumstantial. Then there's choice thoughts, which are aimed. It's called ambition. You want to aim your thoughts that create something that works in your life. I was thinking when I was your age, I'm talking to the young people, I did not know what I wanted to be. I just knew what I didn't want to be. I was born and raised in the ghettos of San Diego, California, what was considered the ghetto, Southeast San Diego. That's what they called them in those days. And we were a working community. Most of our parents and grandparents and even great-grands couldn't read or couldn't read well. In the 50s, most of the African-American women were domestic workers. My mother, my grandmother, my godmother, my aunts. Most of the men, including preachers, were custodians, and they cleaned banks, and we were at that particular stage in our history. But there was a lot of alcoholism, and a lot of abuse, and a lot of anger, and a lot of broken hearts and broken homes, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to be early. I thought I would preach, but I spent a lot of time through a process of limitation. I don't want to be an alcoholic. I don't want to be a drunk. I don't want to be without education. I don't want to be intimidated. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be confused. I do not want to be without employment. I don't want to be racist. I don't want to be clannish. I don't want to be discouraged and depressed. And I started, through the process of elimination, I came out with whatever I am. And I still dance with all those things when the music is right, but I don't become it. And so is my live on already? I think it is. Is it not? Okay, so I call this bridging the gaps, but the theme for this month is brokenness. There was a lot of brokenness, even in the church. And I spent all my time in the church. I'm a fourth generation classical Pentecostal preacher. We lived in the church, lived for the church, lived around the church, and we were the Holiness church, so we couldn't do nothing but go to church. Sarah and John Powell down here know what that is. Several of you come from those really strict, sanctimonious churches. I'm not denouncing it. I'm not even criticizing. I'm observing what my values were as a result of trying to keep out of God's path of anger. God had a terrible anger management issue, and we was all scared of it. Because he was after us, and so was the devil, and so they told us Jesus would save us from both. So We needed Jesus to protect us from God and the devil. So there's been a lot of confusion that we went through over the years, but the gap is an interval. It's an empty space between. When I think of brokenness, I think of the gaps. It's an unfilled space, an interval. It's a vacancy. A vacant building or a vacant thought, or I'm thinking about all the people that had to vacate their communities because of a flood or a fire or a storm. We also get the word vacation from that. To vacate, or what do you do with the vacancies, or what areas of your life did you have to vacate? We were sitting in Sundance last week, my family and I, watching the premiere of the movie Come Sunday. The theater was packed. They actually oversold tickets, and we had friends that were flying in from different parts of the world had their tickets reimbursed because there was a little bit of confusion. But we watched it for the first time as a family. My children, who are 23 and 21, were too small to remember some of the details that come out in that film. They recognized some pathos, some pain that we had gone through, and really that they had gone through inadvertently. And it was a very emotional time for us. But I remember that whole period, which I don't talk about in detail a lot, not the detail that I had spoken to the writer with for 8 years, calling me all hours of the night, Marcus Henchy, asking me questions and making me go back to some of the most pathological times. I mean, I was going through this sickness, and trying to find out how to cure it, how to treat it, and what caused it. When something dies, I always do an autopsy. Whether that's a relationship or an idea or a business, when it dies, I don't just bury it. I do the autopsy to find out what killed it. If somebody says, I died of cancer or I died of heart attack, that's telling me the symptom of what you died of. But I want to know what caused the cancer, what caused the heart failure, what caused the high blood, what are the causes of the source, what is the source of the symptoms of our lives. And when you do that kind of investigative study, you will find a gap. You'll find an open space there that wasn't filled or wasn't filled properly. You'll find that intersection in your life, or that interval, that waiting period has a purpose. There's something in the wait. There's something in the vacate. There's something in the vacancy. And ultimately, it ought to be some kind of vacation. A time to get away. So how do we bridge these gaps? We first must identify what they are. It's been said that life is a series of footnotes to a vast, obscure, and unfinished, and ultimately unfinishable masterpiece. When I say unfinishable, that's where we get the word infinite. It means without finish. An infinite or unfinishable masterpiece. Everyone in here today is a vast, obscure, unfinished, and unfinishable masterpiece. You are infinite. You are without finish. You will not end, and you don't really know where you began, except scientifically, when your father's seed fertilized your mother's egg, and instantly your genetic code was established, and your DNA would only be stamped on every cell in your body. I often say your parents may decide to have you, but God decided to send you. And you're all on a mission. And you're here with permission and with commission. There's a command in your life. Jason Segel, who plays the ministers in the movie, said to me when we were filming it down in Atlanta, he said, Bishop, what are you feeling now that all this has happened? The place was packed with all these. We had 2,000 extras to fill the auditoriums that were our churches, and there are all these crew people and lighting engineers and sound people all over the place, and hair and makeup folk, and it was just a real buzz. And Chiwetel and Jason and I were sitting on a little break. He said, do you feel vindication, or do you feel vengeance, or what do you feel? And I said, well, I don't feel vengeance. There's no reason to be vengeful about anything. I might feel some vindication, but more than vindication, I feel indication. That this is indicative, or an indication to me, that I wasn't as crazy as I thought I was. Or wasn't as crazy as you all thought it was. And when you see it, you'll see the intelligence. The Holy Spirit is intelligent. And that ethereal knowledge that comes from other dimensions or other realms that we call thought, does have a purpose, and it does speak, and you have to listen not only to what is spoken, but what is meant, what is said. There's a passage in Scripture where it says, what meaneth this? That means, what do you mean this to mean? What do you intend this to mean? What is the intention of the experience? Tension creates attention and leads to intention. Pain, tension, stress. You've heard me say that life is basically a sexually transmitted disease or dis-ease with a lot of gaps and a lot of pain and a lot of tension and a lot of confusion, a bunch of vacancies. A heart vacant of love, or heart vacant of peace. This is African American history month. We have a pronounced history. It isn't all about slavery. It isn't all about defeat. It's about some of the most commanding inventions and creative thoughts and minds in the history of the world. We have people who are of African American descent who are not just beaten down and kicked aside and marginalized, but really live the dream that Dr. King had. I love the statement. He dreamed that he would live in a day when his children will be judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character.
Yes. Yes.
With the present administration, I'm not judging him by the color of his skin, and it is color. I'm struggling with the content of his character, but that's not what I'm talking about today. But you talk about a gap. There's a big gap right now in American history, but it's not the end. The tragedy is not that people die, but that far too many never really live. They just exist unconsciously. Most people would rather look for the exception than become the exception or become exceptional. Don't just look for the exception. Be exceptional. Become exceptional. Be above grade. Establish in your own mind. And I said when I was a kid, I remember the day that I don't know if I've ever told this story here. I was about 12 years old, and on Saturdays my mother used to make us, all of us 6 kids, clean out our drawers and reorganize socks and shoes and shirts and drawers and put everything in order because they'd get mixed up during the week. And I remember my brother and I were in our little room where we lived, and I heard 3 bangs like firecrackers, pop, pop, pop. And then somebody go, oh, oh, oh. And I ran out down the hall and through the dining room and living room, out the front porch. 2 doors down, a little 15-year-old boy was laying on his mother's lap, and the mother was in a drunken stupor. You could smell the stench of alcohol coming out of the house. She was beating him in the face. Junior, Junior, wake up, Junior, wake up, Junior. Not Junior, Junior. She's slapping him. And it was in what we call the ghetto. So I stood there paralyzed. I'm 12. We later learned he was 15. He lived 2 doors down. I'd seen him many times. And he was laying there with his mouth agape. And it took the coroner 12 hours to even come and get him. Police officers and ambulance didn't come for hours in that part of the neighborhood. So I stood there. Nobody else was there but me. This drunken mother, eventually I learned he was a dead son. And I built up the nerve to walk toward him and her up the steps. And he was bloody and she was bloody and drunk and didn't even recognize me. I stepped over his body into the house. And there was a man named Johnny that was related to my father in a drunken stupor in the corner crying, wiping his tears and mucus from his face. And the house was all disheveled and you could smell the stench of alcohol. And the room just started spinning. I always have these spinning room experiences. I just stood there by myself, and I said then, one of these days, I'm going to get out of this place, this consciousness, this mentality, this location, and I'm never coming back until I can help others get out. I was 12 years old. I don't want to be that. I don't want to experience that. I will not adopt that as a norm for me. All day for the next 8 hours before the coroner came, children and adults from blocks away would come and look at that young man's body laying on that porch. All day long, people crying. Nobody knew what to do. The landlord who was also African American, had come to collect the rent. They didn't have the rent. They got into a verbal and then a physical match. They jumped on the landlord, beat him down. He goes out to his car, pulls a pistol, goes back in there and just starts shooting wildly. But the only one who died was the 15-year-old kid whom we knew. That put a big gap in my mind as to what was my reality and what I wanted to become. And not only what was my reality, but what I wanted to become our reality.
Yes.
There are distances. There are spaces. You have to learn how to deal with the spaces. Talk to me, somebody. You have to learn how to manage the gaps, the vacancies, the absences, the delinquencies, the tardiness. I'm still, at 65 years old, navigating, negotiating through those vacant places. But I decide that I would be exceptional. That was a choice I made. That I would be different. Anger is a signal of emotion. There's a lot of anger. Anger signals that there's some emotion or commotion or even devotion in your life that hasn't been properly dealt with. We all have issues with anger. We all have issues with feeling uncomfortable or uncomforted by the situation that it is. We wrestle through. One of my favorite passages of Scripture is Luke 4:18, where Jesus said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor." Yes. That was the first word that came out of his mouth as his inaugural speech. He was 30 years old. I am anointed and appointed to preach good news, to proclaim glad tidings to the poor, which later he said, you will have with you always. The second thing was to heal the brokenhearted. He didn't say anything about saving anybody except from themselves, from your impoverished mind, from the broken, shattered heart that you live around. I have to preach the good news, the glad tidings, and the good news is that the bad news is all wrong. Sin is in a lateral sense, in an earthly sense, is an inappropriate response to a legitimate need. It basically means in the Greek to miss the mark, or to miss your mark, to miss your point. We title it and we label it as to be acts that people do. It's not really what you do, it's what you don't do. That's the sin. When you miss your mark, when you don't do what you're called to do or what you came here to do, you miss your assignment, or you never know your significance. You don't know the design or signal that you are in the earth. We all have reasons for being here. Turn to somebody and say, I'm here on purpose. How you doing? Yeah. How are you living your life? How are you finding your space? So I want to continue the rest of this month, as we're looking at brokenness and looking at what it means to feel fractured or damaged or not whole, parceled out. The last thing I do every single night, and I've done this for years, every single night before I go to sleep, is in my meditative time, I pull together all the broken particles of my soul that I incurred that day. From an email, from a text, from a conversation, a phone call. We get broken all day long. What I do is before I go to sleep, I just repent, which means rethink, forgive, pull it all back together so that when I wake up, I won't be as crazy as I was when I went to sleep. If you go to sleep fractured, you're going to wake up fractured. So I got to try to get my business straight that night. There's a lot of things I have to sort through. I might do it with music. I like to watch the comedy shows at night. The last, where that's killing, I like their monologues. I kind of laugh at the foolishness of our day. We make fun. It makes it a little lighter than it would be, and I don't take myself so seriously. But I pull it all together. And then sometimes you are dealing with a fractured part of yourself that you left in a first grade classroom. In something a coach said or didn't say. In something the second grade teacher said. Something you heard your parent or grandparent say, she's a little shy, she's a little bashful. Yeah. He's a little precocious, he's very active, he's kind of busy. You hear those things, and then you carry those things all your life. I'm a little bashful, I'm a little shy, I'm precocious, I'm unmanageable, I'm feisty. You're ugly. They said, you little ugly thing. I heard those things. He's an ugly little boy. Can you hear me? Hey. He's an ugly little thing. Did y'all hear that? I know you heard that. Square head, box head. I heard all those kinds of things. Now, I got four corners you can't see them, but I got. My brother used to call me that. I heard those things, and some with your little flat feet, or your flat nose, or your big lips, and all that kind of stuff. You hear these little, and people don't mean anything by them, but you hear them. My mother's 86, and they used to call her monkey. Her mother and her aunt said she was ugly. My mother's beautiful. You've seen my mother, but she has felt ugly all her life. Some of the most attractive people don't believe they are. And some of the most unattractive people, I've been there. You think you're looking good, and you think, don't nobody like you. You have to wrestle. We all wrestle with those thoughts, those battles to determine, I am who I say I am. Talk to me, somebody. Said, I am who I say I am. Not who Mama Nam said, and Big Mama Nam said, and Pookie and Ray Ray said. Come on, turn to somebody and say, how you doing again? Psychic hygiene. I'm almost finished. Cleaning your thoughts about you, about yourself, about the circumstance. Making a decision to develop a certain opinion or appraisal of your situation. What you're going through. I have to do that constantly. Like I take a shower every morning and sometimes every night. Or you run, if you get a chance, and just kind of refresh the oil from your face if it gets in your eyes, or you refresh yourself constantly. Sometimes people change clothes in the middle of the day. Or you eat several times. I don't care how much you eat, you're going to get hungry again. Right? And I go, how clean you are when you walk out of the shower. You need to get back in there tomorrow. And you might need to get back in there in 2 hours. But you keep, it's a maintenance program. I have to clear my thoughts out every day. I mean, when I say psychic hygiene, you're using your extrasensory perception. That's sixth sense. You can sense things. You can feel things. Children can. Little babies can. My little puppy dog can. They can sense things. We neglect that, sometimes deny it. But you have a powerful awareness. You're actually more clairvoyant than you think. You have a clearer vision than you think. You have a little mental telepathy. You can send signals out. You are a signal. You are a sign. You do have significance. You do have assignment. You do have a certain design of yourself and of your being. We're not a mistake. We make some. We're not an accident. We have some. We're all ordained to be here. Finding the spaces in between is where you listen and meditate and rethink, what did I just go through? What was that conversation? What did that really mean? What am I sensing? How do I go deeper into myself, into my soul, so that I can locate the source more than just the symptoms of my pain? For where there's fruit, there's root. If anger and rejection and resentment is there, what is the root of it? Where did it come from? You live your whole life doing that. Do the autopsies. When a part of yourself is dead. There are maintenance techniques and technologies to help us heal broken places and heal broken spaces in our lives. Our corporate objective this month is to offer ways to address, transcend, and bridge the gaps in your life. And that never stops. You're always fixing something about you. Reconnecting, reconciling, inner illusions of separation, isolation, alienation. We all struggle constantly. Does anybody like me? Who likes me? Is anybody supposed to like me? There's 6 children in our family. Every one of us thinks our parents love the other one more. And we grown. There's the oldest girl. The first one died at birth, Caroline. followed by Antanya, who was the eldest, who had to look after the rest of us. She was the caretaker and the caregiver. Mom and Daddy both worked outside the home, sometimes 2 jobs or 3, trying to feed 6 mouths, 8 if you consider theirs. So there was stress and there was strain. Then came my brother, the firstborn, male in the family. Everybody was excited, as I've told you before. Then a year later, to exact 12 months, my sister was born. Everybody was less glad, because she came 1 year after my brother. My mother was tired of having children, as they used to say. She didn't even like Daddy anymore. So she liked him enough that I came, and by the time I got there, wasn't nobody glad. No. Nobody took pictures. Everybody got pictures but me. I don't have any childhood pictures. Maybe people asked, some few that people took away, but I never sitting in front of a camera with my little shoes on. Wasn't nobody glad. In fact, Mama didn't even want me and tried to abort me. She said, I need some counseling, y'all. I need some therapy. I'm an unwanted child. But it also made me, and there are 2 others, but that made me assert myself and work a little harder to find my space and place in the midst of the gap, so somebody would know I passed through here. Sometimes that last child or that middle child particularly are the ones that tend to be overachievers. Does anybody care that I'm on the planet? I never asked for new shoes, new shirt, new pants. You didn't ask for that stuff in our house because you weren't going to get it because you asked for it. You got it if they thought you needed it or noticed you needed it. And it was usually, I had to wear my brother's stuff. Hand me down. My grandfather, my mother's father, came here, and my nephew Leon and Elector and all those guys were in school, and my grandfather came here, and he had some, he said, I got some clothes and things I want to give them boys. They were his great-grandchildren. He said, go ahead and bring that suitcase in. I got plenty of things these children can be wearing. I'm thinking, Grandpa, they ain't going to want to wear your stuff. He brought out suits. The lapel looked like landing pads. They're so wide. Yeah, that was a good suit. Ties looked like flags and stuff. Nobody want to wear that stuff. But I took it, and my nephew said, Uncle, you got to be kidding me. That's all Grandpa knew. They ought to be glad they got anything. He said, you know how old these bitches are? Old I'm wearing? I said, no. He said, guess. I said, I don't know, Grandpa. They're 50 years old. He said, now that's how long I got them when the man gave them to me. I don't know how long he had them. He said, some white man, so white man gave me these britches. I don't know how long he been wearing them. I had to sort through so many identities, identifications, reconciliations, evaluations, appraisals, and then finally come up with my own. You belong here, in this space, in this place, in this time in human history. You precious young people are born into a different world than the one your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and your teachers were born in. You know how to manipulate electronics and computers, smartphones and smart television and smart houses. Make you say, what is smart? You need to make some dumb phones for people like me. But it's about knowing. It's called the information highway. Knowledge, science is what means knowledge. Science, conscience means with knowledge. Look at me when I tell you, you're bright and brilliant. You're aware. You're in tune. You're sensitive. You get it. You get it. You have it. You came here with it. We're standing around to help you recognize it. That's what, Brother Reed, that's what the program is designed to bring out the best in you, to help you identify it and then preserve it. Stand up, all the little children right here with the Reed Foundation. Stand. Leave the one that's asleep where she is. Come on, give them a big round of applause. You didn't ask to come here unless in some pre-incarnate reality you actually may have agreed to come here and forgot about it. But we're glad you're here. We welcome you. We don't only welcome you, we want you on this planet. And we have great hopes for you and high anticipations and expectations. We know you're good. We know you're smart. We know you're beautiful young people. I'm going to have these young people to stand as well. These teenagers over here, you'll soon be their age. These are our All Souls young people. In fact, anybody 20 years or younger, stand. The rest of you, eat your hearts out of you. You better get over there and sit down. I'm standing. Youth is powerful. Youth is promise. Youth is adventure. Youth is curiosity. Youth is expansion. Youth is opportunities. You get to choose. Don't be hasty. Take your time. Love you. Enjoy growing. Don't come to premature conclusions. It's rough a little bit, but you got to be tough. I'll remind you of what the late Viktor Frankl said. It's one of my favorite statements. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning. Say, I'm a survivalist. Say, I will survive, I will arrive, and I will thrive. We give you today, and we give you tomorrow, your tomorrows. You can design them. You came into an era, a generation, an age that's new and fresh and powerful. You happen to be adapted to this age in a way we can't. You started understanding rap songs that we will never understand. I mean, it's not that I just can't hear the lyric. I don't know what and I'm 65, and that's for old people. I don't know. I ain't old. But you get it. When I say you get it, I want you to keep saying this in your life. I get it. I'm getting clarity. It's coming to me. Oh, yes, I can manage that. I can handle that. I will deal with that. I will achieve. I will exceed. I will succeed. I bless you. Stretch your hands towards the young people and just send positive energy. The blessing of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. Broken homes, broken hearts, foster children or adopted children. You don't need to compare or compete with anybody but yourself. We bless you with specialness, that you identify that whatever the pain is can be healed. Whatever the hurt is, you can survive it, sweetheart. There's a healing ointment in the earth that comes to you, especially when you feel alone and abandoned, and when you cry by yourself. You might still be doing that at my age, because I do sometime. But it all gets better. Push the energy one more time through your fingers. Just breathe it toward them. Whoever they marry, however they live, whoever they have children with later on, and what they do with their college educations, or if they become business executives, or even if they don't graduate from college, but they still create a company that changes the world, or that takes care, or they come up with ideas. May the flow of intelligence and energy just be in you. Have wonderful dreams. Respect yourself and demand everybody else to do that. Not by what you say, but by the way you carry yourself. Say it, I am somebody. Say, I am, and I aim. I am ambitious, and I'm ambitious. Both your aim and your am are important. You remember that, kids. I bless you. I love you. We respect you. We receive you. Let's give them another big round of applause. Bless you. Thank you.
Let's all stand with them.
And if you would, could you find one of these young people and just tell them you are somebody? Find one of these young people. Come on up from the back. Find one of these young people and tell them you are somebody. You're my brother, you're my sister. So take me by the hand. Together we will work until we're done. Tell somebody you are somebody. Oh, that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand.
Hey, we're so happy you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256 or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.